Hi, I'm Dr. Abha, and I'm so glad you joined me today for another installment of Culinary Karma. I welcome you into my home where I'm going to give you a traditional Indian thali of dal or lentils, basmati rice, kissed with a little bit of cumin, a hint of achaar or that mango pickle. We'll also have some dahi or yogurt, and I might even add a little bit of aloo gobi if I have the time to make some today. We might have some pickled white sweet Vidalia onions as a pungent note to our platter. And the beauty of such a presentation is this: every aspect of our palate will be summoned to the table. Finally, we're going to have a crispy papad made with dal as well as a crunchy note in our meal. I remember when Mummy used to make dal, rice, and all of these accompaniments for me. I always thought, is this what she grew up with? And undoubtedly for centuries, Indians all over, north, south, east, and west of our country feast on the beauty and simplicity of dal and rice. And so I invite you to my home for a traditional North Indian meal today. Let's start with the preparation of the white rice, and to it I'm going to add just a little bit of additional flavor. If you want to make it just as is in its pristine state, you most certainly can. Let's get started. I've got a hot pan ready to go, and to it I'm going to add about a tablespoon of canola oil or cooking oil. I'm also going to go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of my cumin seeds and another half. Why? I have 1.5 cups of rice that I've pre-soaked for about 2 hours. One sort of pearl I'm going to give you about rice is this: always pre-soak it. All right, those cumin seeds are already dark, popping, and aromatic. If you were here, you could smell what I can smell, which is just this really nutty, earthy flavor. This is 1.5 cups of basmati long grain white rice that I pre-soaked for 2 hours in water. I'm just going to let that nutty cumin merge with the white rice in the oil. We're cooking the rice. When we allow it to come together in the oil, we're cooking the rice, and that's a really good thing to do, okay? So you'll hear some of that sizzling has gone down. I'm just gonna stir this for a few 30 seconds to a minute and allow for us to reveal that rice's beautiful quality before we add water to it. The rule of thumb in long grain white basmati rice is 2 cups of water for every cup of rice. And because this is 1.5 cups of basmati rice, we'll use 3 cups of water. There's another pearl I'm going to give you when it comes to cooking white rice. Let's go ahead and add this water first. And again, that was a 2-to-1 ratio. I have 3 cups of water for that 1.5 cups of rice. The pearl I wanted to share with you is this: you want for this water to come to a rolling boil before you close the lid. I'll also add salt at that point as well. We know that the addition of salt raises the boiling point, the point at which the water will actually come to a boil. So let's add the salt once the water comes to a boil. We'll cover the lid, and the rice will cook for about 15 to 17 minutes to perfection. All right, let's get started. To this, we're going to add 1 and about 1.5 tablespoons of oil, and that beeping sound is the Instant Pot telling me it's plenty ready. Let's go ahead and add from my culinary passport some masalas. I'm gonna hold off on my whole cumin seeds, and I'll explain why in a moment. Let's get some turmeric. So I'm gonna add to my 1 cup of dal that I had soaked, 3/4 of a teaspoon of turmeric. I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of the Kashmiri lal mirch, that red chili powder. I'm gonna add half a teaspoon of my ground coriander and another half a teaspoon or so of my ground cumin, just for some basic flavor. I'm also gonna add some salt, right? So let's go ahead and add a good teaspoon of salt. Come on inside the pot and look at us stirring up these beautiful spices, the salt, the lal mirch, that ground coriander, cumin, as well as that turmeric. All right, let's go ahead and add some of our other aromatics, as it were. I'm gonna go ahead and put in about a tablespoon of minced ginger. Dal really loves ginger, and it acts as a digestive. I'm also gonna add some onions. Let's go ahead and add 3/4 of a cup of minced onions and another 3/4 of a cup of tomatoes. There's another special flavor I'm going to be using today that I have yet to have shown you, and it's asafoetida. It's hing, a very pungent powder and aromatic that we use very carefully. It has a really foul smell in a way, but it adds an incredible flavor if used correctly. You don't want to overdo it. If you don't have asafoetida, it's okay. Go ahead and use garlic. They kind of are both such strong players in a dish that I tend to choose one or the other. So if you don't have asafoetida, I'm going to add 3/4 of a teaspoon to this. Go ahead and add about a teaspoon of garlic. Just to recap, I've soaked 1 cup of dal. So that's going to feed about 2 to 3 people generously. If you're feeding more, go ahead and double the proportions. Be very careful not to burn at the bottom of the pan. I've measured out 3 cups of water. I'm going to add some of that right now, just so that I liberate the tomatoes and onions that are starting to stick at the bottom of my pan. I'm going to go ahead and put in my washed 1 cup of tur dal, and it's simply washed. I did not pre-soak the dal. If you were to pre-soak this dal, it will cut down on the cooking time. As of now, I'm going to go ahead and cook my tur dal on high here in my Instant Pot for about 5 minutes. Were you to have soaked it for an hour or 2, you're going to cut down on the time to 3 to 4 minutes, okay? So I'm just mixing together this pulse, this dal, and I'm adding the remainder of the 3 cups of water. I've already added a teaspoon of salt. That's probably going to be enough for now. We can always adjust the flavor as we go. And we're going to do something special to complement this dal when it's ready. Stay tuned. All right, let's do the reveal. Let me lift the lid and watch some of that smoke waft in. And come on in and look in the Instant Pot. Isn't that beautiful? You can see each individual pulse or lentil, and that's what we want to see. You see some of the tomatoes dancing in there. I'm going to go ahead and plate this dal, and then we're going to add the tadka. We're going to finish the dal off with something very special called a tadka. And a tadka is nothing but heated up oil with the addition of your final aromatics. So let's go ahead and add a tablespoon and another teaspoon of oil, and it's already heating up. Be very careful when you're working on the heat. I'm going to go ahead and use mustard seeds today in lieu of cumin. So I'm going to take a teaspoon of mustard seeds and let that fry right in that oil. I'm also going to add 2 whole green chili peppers to kick it up a notch. And then remember how we were cooking with asafoetida? I'm going to add a little bit more as part of the finale. So that's about 2 to 3 pinches. There's such a beautiful, bountiful flavor, and you can see that cooking right in there, right? And you know it's ready when the mustard seeds are popping. They change a slight hue. They become a little more reddish, and it's just seconds. Do you hear that popping? Let's go ahead and do the final finale. Look at this. Isn't that gorgeous? And that's how you want your dal to be presented, with a gorgeous tadka And of course, with all my cooking, a little bit of cilantro, that limey, lemony, green leafy finish. And this is my tur dal. I think it's time to eat. We've just prepared a traditional platter of dal and rice and aloo gobi, some pickled onions, yogurt, and achaar. I'd like to invite my little friend named Maya to my table to join me. She's a 6-year-old, delightful young lady who has a bright future ahead of her. And Maya, in order to grow strong and become that astronaut someday, you're going to want to eat dal and chawal with your masi the next time you come. I've had a wonderful time introducing you to the culinary simplicity of North India. It's time to try it. I have my tur dal that I'm going to splash on my cumin rice. I'm taken back to my childhood when my mother used to feed me with her own hands. I'm going to put a little bit of achaar on here just to change my palate, but the dal is so beautifully prepared with the hint of tomatoes and the tang that comes therein, the sweetness from the onions, and that tadka that finished the dal so perfectly. I can feel those spices and the mustard seeds dancing in the dal. It really is delicious. The yogurt will offer a nice cooling element. And then the aloo gobi. This is my culinary karma, one dish at a time. I'm Dr. Abha, and I'm so thrilled to invite you into my home and my heritage every week as we explore the culinary beauty and exotic dishes of India.